Well, welcome to the Trinity Alps Performing Arts Center. I love saying that. I'm on the board of directors here. So the first disclaimer is this is a meet and greet for Tim Saxon for sheriff. And this place is open if people want to pay the fee. Any other candidates, I'm just saying it as a board of director, this is a paid for event by the Saxon for Sheriff campaign, and if any other candidates want to come in here and do a meet and greet, we thought we'd kind of start things that way. We have a few of these in the foyer there, but I just want to let you know there are a series of actual candidates nights coming up where all the candidates will be there, or at least they'll all be invited. And just, you might want to grab one or two or three of these. Tuesday, March 13th, the Realtors Association is doing one at VFW in Hayfork. Wednesday, March 21st, we've got a few people that are running for supervisor down there. That'll be at the North Fork Grange. And Tuesday, April 3rd, if you really want to take a nice drive, at Van Dusen Community Hall. And then, why are you laughing? It's a great place. I used to teach school over there. Monday, April 9th, we'll be back here for a full candidates night with the sheriff's candidates and the candidates for assessor, treasurer, and whoever else is running. Then on the 16th of April at 6 p.m. at the Burnt Ranch School for downriver folks. Monday, April 23rd, the Lewiston Community Center. Tuesday, April 24th, the Douglas City Fire Hall. That's correct. And then I think it's the Hayfork Rotary is doing one on May 22nd at the Dining Hall Fairgrounds in Hayfork. So you're going to have plenty of opportunity to hear candidates for some pretty important jobs. Having been elected 5 times, I've been through this thing, and I actually enjoyed campaigning a lot. Got to meet a lot of good people, had a lot of good chicken, a lot of good spaghetti. But, but this time of year right now, I think we're in need of leadership, of someone for the job of sheriff that understands what leadership is because that person has performed those duties. So I'm very pleased to share tonight. So now I'm no longer on the Trinity Alps board. I am on the campaign for my friend Tim Saxon for sheriff because I believe that this gentleman has the kind of skills and experiences that we need. The Sheriff's Department's halfway in the process of building a new jail. That takes somebody with administrative experience and knows how to lead. Certainly with all the activities we have going on in our county, some that are great and others that present challenges, we need someone that can lead us through those times. So how about a warm Trinity County welcome for candidate for sheriff, Mr. Tim Saxon.
Jen, thank you very much. Can you hear me without that? Back, in the back, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, then I probably won't use that because I'll be walking around anyway. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Jen, thank you for that introduction. It's been wonderful. There's more people here than I was hoping for, and that's great. That's really great. I was so worried. I told my wife, I said, gosh, what if only 15 people show up? Ugh. We got a lot of cookies to eat. I want to be your next sheriff. And I'm going to tell you tonight why that is. I moved my family here in 1998, 20 years ago, in February. I was competing for the job of commander of the Trinity River Area Office of the CHP. And I was successful, and I got selected, and we moved up here. And it was actually quite a culture shock because we came up from Sacramento. And things were a lot different there. For example, the high school there had 3,200 students just in the high school. We came up here and it's like, this is a wonderful breath of fresh air. We moved up here. I spent 10 years as a commander of the Highway Patrol Office here before I moved on. We raised the family here. The kids grew up here, went to the elementary school. They graduated from the high school with honors. One went to San Diego State, graduated. The other went to UC Davis and graduated. They both moved back to Weaverville to be in Trinity County because they appreciated the way of life that we have here. They both are employed. They both have retirements and medical, and it's all good. And they're never going to leave. And therefore, Jan and I decided we're probably never going to leave. That's why, again, I decided I want to run for sheriff, put to use the 30-plus years of law enforcement experience that I've gained with the Highway Patrol and with the Marshal's office here. And I want to make this a safer county. I want to make this a better place for my kids, for your kids, and the kids that come after that. And that's why I'm in this thing. I'm in it all the way. People said, well, you're already retired. I am. Does that mean you're dead? No. It means you go on and move to the next thing, and this is the next thing. That's why I'm running. Now let me tell you a little bit about me. Been a peace officer for over 30 years. I began my career with the California Highway Patrol in 1983. Was promptly assigned to Los Angeles. We were there just in time for the 1984 Olympic Games, and that was a truly spectacular experience to be a part of. Throughout the next few years, I served in patrol assignments in Baldwin Park, San Jose, Oakland, Weaverville, and then I ended up my career in Gilroy. So throughout that time, I successfully promoted from sergeant to lieutenant to captain. I was a field administration officer in San Jose and Oakland. Basically, I supervised over 90 employees, fleet management, occupational safety, civil liabilities, all types of things like that. Going back to my time here in Trinity River, 10 years, and then I was recruited by the chief in Redding at our division office to go down there and be the administrative officer for all of Northern California. 17 area commands from basically, well, north of Sacramento all the way to the border, and from the water over to the coast, or to the Nevada border. And when I was there, I did budgeting, I did grants, employee disciplinary reviews, citizen complaints, training, public information officer, civil liability, and I was the liaison between the other 7 division commands and headquarters around the state. And when I retired as a captain out of the Hollister-Gilroy area, I continued to serve the public. I went to work for the Trinity Superior Court as a deputy marshal. Been there for 5 years, protecting the judges, protecting the employees, and making sure that everybody that visits that courthouse has a safe visit and can leave without a problem. My wife Jan, she and I are working on coming up on our 31st anniversary. She's the one that organized everything here, and her troop is the one that's responsible for all the wonderful signage, the decorations, and the treats out there. So when we're done here, please pack up an armful and take them out, otherwise I gotta eat them. Okay, so that's where I've been. Let me just kind of give you an overview of the types of things I did during my 28 years with the Highway Patrol. Besides road patrol, I was a training officer. I was a felony hit and run follow-up investigator. I was a background investigator for new employees, and I also worked recruitment. As a field sergeant, I was responsible in Baldwin Park for 40 employees, working the night shift mostly. So everything dealing from citizens' complaints to deployments to vehicle maintenance, all those types of things I handled. I was also the occupational safety coordinator, and I worked with the gang liaison task force down in the Baldwin Park area. Then I became a division training coordinator, so I was responsible to make sure that all employees received the proper training at regular intervals and passed it successfully so that we would not incur any civil liability issues. Also for officer safety themselves. I was the commercial vehicle enforcement coordinator for all of Los Angeles. What that is, it's the person that coordinates with all the allied agencies, such as LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Long Beach, all those departments that enforce truck regulations. I was in charge of making sure that they all received the proper training and that they were conducting enforcement appropriately according to the vehicle code. Then I went up to Sacramento in headquarters. I was the department's recruitment coordinator, and I was in charge of all classifications and recruitment for the department. I worked with Department of Personnel Administration and the State Personnel Board, making sure that everything was above board and we were doing things adequately. I was an EEO complaint investigator. That's equal employment opportunities, so sexual discrimination, sex harassment. I investigated those types of complaints. I also taught at the CHP Academy. I was an instructor for sexual harassment prevention and for sex discrimination. I was in San Jose. I was the field operations officer, and I handled a lot of employee disciplinary actions and citizens complaint investigations. The important thing that I learned there is the Peace Officer Bill of Rights, it applies to all employees that work in law enforcement, and that's to ensure that their rights are not violated by a department, any department, so that they can continue to do their jobs without fear. And that's one thing I'm really big on, is making sure that employees working within a law enforcement organization know that they have rights and they can be protected in lieu of any type of other types of complaints made against them. Occupational safety manager, special events coordinator, and I also worked liaison with Santa Clara Sheriff's Office in another gang task force with them. Probably the biggest thing that I can bring to the Sheriff's Department is going to be my experience when I worked in headquarters. I was liaison to the state capitol, Governor's Policy Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, the California Commission on Juvenile Justice, and the Criminal Justice Commission. I also was in charge of the department's entire grant unit. We had at that time about $42 million worth of grants that came from federal sources. My unit was responsible for writing grants, for monitoring the grants, for ensuring compliance with all the grants from the 117 areas that had the money in the state. And I also participated in writing final reports, and I was the one that made the highway safety plan proposal on behalf of the Highway Patrol to the Office of Traffic Safety. So I'm used to talking in front of groups, I'm used to talking in front of politicians, I'm used to talking to anybody. In fact, they probably say I talk too much. But that training was very important there. I was also a presenter at Office of Traffic Safety workshops. Let's talk about my time in, well, let's talk about Trinity River area. This was, I was in this area longer than any other command, because I truly love this place. I helped open up the juvenile hall when that was first built here with Terry Lee, and he's not here tonight. So the meth task force, I was one of the first members in that. I've been a board member for Trinity County Life Support for something like 12 years now. I was president of the Rotary Club of Weaverville. I was also the assistant governor for the district for 3 years, and then I was lieutenant governor for the district for a year. That's probably enough about what I've done. You all saw these cards out in front. Hopefully you picked some up. And I just want to talk a little bit about the goals that I have on the back here. So if you have one, follow along. I won't go into a lot of details, but I know there's probably going to be some questions afterwards. To target criminal activity through additional deputy positions. My question to you is, do you feel safer now than you did 10 years ago?
No.
5 years ago?
No.
Things are changing, things are evolving, and it's not the fault of the Sheriff's Department. It is not the fault of the Sheriff's Department. The budget's been cut, the funding's been reduced, the number of personnel has come down. You also have a situation where the legislators in California and some of the voters, well, a large portion of the voters, passed some things that were not conducive to law enforcement. They did not help law enforcement do the job of protecting the people. And that's my bottom line. The job of the sheriff is to protect the people in this county and ensure that they can go to work, they can go fishing, they can go home safe at night, and not have somebody knocking on their door, ripping their stuff off. That's just what I want to do. Violent crime is up. Property crimes are up over the last couple of years by 40%. I feel we need more in-view patrol. We need more patrol cars out there, more deputies out there, so that people know that they're not going to be able to get away with this stuff. That's going to take money, right? Where's the money coming from? Well, again, through my experience with my other agency that I work with, I've gotten real good at building bridges with politicians as opposed to tearing them down. I propose to work very closely with our Board of Supervisors and the new CAO, who I've had several conversations with so far. We're on board with a lot of things that we want to do together to increase the level of patrols and increase the level of people working within the department. I have, as I mentioned, a lot of experience working with grants and external funding sources. I plan to put to use all of the talents, all the information, all the connections that I've made over the years to ensure that we get every single dollar that we can back into this county to protect you. Might even have to explore such a thing as a sales tax. Humboldt County did it. It seems to be working really well over there. A lot of funding for the Sheriff's Department, and it was specifically to them. That might be something that we need to explore in further detail, and I'm willing to work on that with whoever groups, whatever groups come together. And the reason that I'm looking at, you got tax, or you might have some type of a special bond issue, or I'm not sure. I'm just kind of throwing things out there, but there's other alternative ways to pay for your safety. But without doing that, we're already paying the cost of crime. Because when you lose property, it's destroyed or lost. You make an insurance claim, so your insurance goes up. And if enough things happen, certain areas, their property values are going to start going down. So we're all paying the price already, so maybe a couple more cents in that sales tax, if it goes directly to public safety, might not be a bad thing to look at. Those are some of the things that I have on tap to try and increase the number of personnel within the department. Resident deputies, huge thing. Everywhere I go around the county, response times are getting delayed. And the criminals know that. The criminal knows that if they break into a house in Coffee Creek, it's going to take the deputy from Hayfork 2 hours to get there. By then, they're long gone. We need to do a program and get more people into resident deputy positions. That comes along with more money. And you all play a part in getting more money. And how's that? You have to get to your Board of Supervisor, your supervisor in your district, and you have to continually tell them, we need more deputies. And then I can use that in conjunction with calls for service to show them that there's a need for more. To get additional personnel, in the past it's been, Trinity County is one of the lowest paid for law enforcement in the state. The last few years they've been able to bring that up to a more comparable level, and it's actually fairly comparable to some of the surrounding counties that we have. But my experience with recruitment, I can tell you as sheriff, I will be at the various colleges myself, manning a booth or a table, telling people that they need to at least start their career in Trinity County. They at least need to come here and get their foot in the door. I don't care, and I'll say this now, I don't care if they stay for 20 years, but let's get a body on the road, let's get them working, let's get them trained, and then we have the opportunity to convince them to stay here. So that's what I would put to use on that. Cannabis ordinances. The voters in California said that they want to have legalized cannabis, and so it is. The Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission have been working very hard to ensure that the ordinances that are passed comply with the state regulations, which tend to change in midstream. So it's been a very difficult process. I've been attending the planning commission meetings. I've been attending the board of supervisor meetings. And it's not clear cut. As a sheriff, though, I find this actually refreshing that we have a law that says this is what you can do, and if it's not this, then you're illegal. You go after the illegal people who are not complying with what the ordinances or what the state law says, and that's it. That's just the bottom line. That's what I intend on doing. If you're legal, great. We'll have code enforcement, making sure that you're doing it right. The code enforcement will also go out and attack the criminal element, and we'll go after it from that direction. Yes, it's going to take money. We need more code enforcement people. There's no doubt about it. They just added another code enforcement officer, and they have another one that's been approved in the budget. So half of my work is already done on that. Another thing that's nice about having additional code enforcement is that it's another sworn deputy out on the road. It's another sworn deputy that's driving a marked unit up and down the road. And people don't know, is that code enforcement or is that the patrol officer? And if and when the situation occurs that is requiring an immediate response, you now have more people that can respond to that situation. There's been a lot of talk lately about missing persons, cold case. And my plan is to hire part-time retired peace officers and put them into a cold case and missing persons unit. And I want to do that because if you're a family member or a friend of somebody that's missing, it's important to you. It should not be something that is swept under the rug and forgotten at some point in time. And the detectives that we have now are overworked trying to just get the normal crimes that are going on, let alone continue to follow up on some other cold cases. So by getting part-time people in there that are not paid any benefit, they're just paid a salary, and it's something that I'm pretty sure a grant that I have in mind could pay for. I think it'd be a good thing to have the extra work on that. When you're also working with part-time peace officers, I intend to establish a really good coalition with the district attorney's office. The DA investigator would play a prominent role in helping out, following up in some leads, and also looking at allied agencies, our surrounding neighbors, and getting into their database and seeing what type of information they may have that could help a cold case. We've just seen another mass shooting at a school at the other end of the country. And it's active shooter training. You know, the Sheriff's Department has an active shooter training course right now that they put on. They do a very good job with it. I want to expand that, though. I want to take that. I want to ensure that our substitute teachers get the same training on a regular basis so they know what's going on, as well as the teachers in the classrooms. I want to ensure that we offer this training to businesses as well. I want to see that this training also goes out to churches as well, because we've seen time and time again where situations are going on, and it's scary. I'm not saying I can prevent them, but with some training, I think we can help save some lives if this occurs. And the numbers are saying that it's going to occur at some point in time, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way life is today. We have to make sure that we take serious all reports of people who tend to have behavioral health issues or substance abuse issues, and they also have weapons. We need to look at that more closely. California's a red flag state. You can report those things in, and law enforcement should take action upon them. Talking about schools, I want to institute the school resource officer teamed up with a juvenile probation counselor like we used to have several years ago. It was an outstanding program. They went to all the schools in the district, and they got to know the students. They got to know the educators there. They knew who the problem people were, and they could establish a rapport. It's also to teach drug abuse awareness. It's also to get the truancy numbers back down. We've been seeing, and I've talked to several of the school principals, we've seen an increase in truancy issues. And that equates to dollars as well, because every student, the average daily attendance for a student gets about $7,000 a year for the school. Every year that student's not there, that's money lost. So let's put school resource officers back in there and ensure that students are in school. How's that going to, I've already got an idea how to pay for that. In fact, I've had conversations with a couple of school administrators as well as the chief probation officer, and I have a commitment for funding those positions for at least a year while I'm pursuing grants. Grants take anywhere from 12 to 18 months to actually be funded, and so at least I have some good direction on that, and I'm pretty sure I can get that going fairly quickly. Environmental hazards. There's a lot of talk about illegal camping, illegal fires, dumping, public land grows. Well, between our code enforcement, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Forest Service, they've been going after these people, these illegal campers. I'm part of a group, the Weaverville Support Service, where we, as a group of volunteers, go out and pick up the garbage and the trash in our creek beds. And I can tell you, some of this stuff is really disgusting. Backpacks full of used hypodermic needles, used condoms, just defecation. It's really not pleasant. But by staying on top of this and getting law enforcement going down in these problem areas on a regular basis, we can clear out that unhelpful situation and help protect our streams and our creeks. I don't want to call it a homeless issue. Some of it is because people are homeless. Some of them is just because people don't fit in anywhere else and they don't want to accept help. I've been working with behavioral health, with HRN, and with a couple other agencies to develop a program where help can be provided for these individuals to get them out of these creeks and streams and keep them from starting these warming fires or cooking fires, which we saw in Los Angeles how devastating that can be. Just one of them gets out of control. I would like to work with the fire districts on instituting ordinances with regard to warming fires or cooking fires. Several other counties have ordinances that can be enforced and can keep these wild or open fires under control. Also, there's several other groups. There's private groups. That Sharon and Walt are here tonight. They're trying to put together a program called Hope House, which I've been to a couple of meetings. I've talked to them. I've seen their plan, and it's really got a lot of promise and potential to it to really help people to get out of the situation that they're in. But it only works for those that want to. Those that don't will be taken care of appropriately with better trained deputies who understand how to work the system and get these people either into help or into the correctional system. I would rather they get help because our jail is already full. Which brings us to another thing. That new jail has got to be built. The old facility is falling apart. The plumbing is going crazy on it. It is no longer a safe place for employees and for the visitors. This new jail, a $20 million grant coming from the state, another $2.5 million from the county. We have to ensure that this thing goes through on time and on schedule, which is another thing I used to do is facility management, and I dealt with Department of Real Estate with the state. And I understand how things move slowly, and I understand what you can do to keep things going on time, and on schedule, and on budget. Because the longer you put things off, the more it's going to cost. We don't have any more than the $20 million coming from the state. So every month this goes longer, it's money that the county is having to pay for. And we don't want to get to a point where the county says, you know what, it's too expensive to go on, we're just going to drop the whole thing because our existing jail facility will not last. How about animal control? Who here does not love Christine? I mean, come on, she is an awesome person, and she's going to be retiring. She and I have talked a lot about animal control issues, and especially the getting control on dog and cat populations. I want to work on getting together with people to establish some type of an ordinance with regard to spay and neutering, because these animals, unwanted animals, are producing themselves so quickly that it's just, it's overwhelming our animal control shelter, and it needs to be addressed. If we can do that, we're going to be saving animal lives, and we're also going to be reducing some costs to our animal control by not having as many unwanted animals in there. Succession planning. Succession planning to me is a very, very important aspect of any organization. You have to know and you have to train who wants to come up in the ranks, give them the training they need so that they can become effective leaders in the future. I've done this many, many times. In fact, I participated as an assessor for first-line supervisors at the CHP Academy, where we developed needs for people, we evaluated them, we got them the training that they needed to go on and become successful supervisors. The treatment court program. It's a wonderful thing that many, many agencies in this county are putting together, and I love it. I really do. It's a way to keep people out of the jail. When they do get arrested, they're evaluated. Do they have a behavioral health issue? Do they have a substance abuse issue? Is it something that they want to deal with, or is it something that they just don't care and they want to self-destruct? Those that want to help can go into this program where it has different steps. You complete the steps, you stay out of jail. But if you fail a step, you have the opportunity to go to jail. It's a wonderful thing. Probation's on board with this. Behavioral health, mental health, HRN, the jail, the sheriff. Yeah, I really see this as a program that will help the people in Trinity County to better themselves and to stop the cycle, the recidivism of being arrested. They go to jail, they get out, they start the same habits up that they had before. They get arrested, they go into jail. It just costs us more money. We have to do something to help them. Well, I've talked about as long as it seems. So, how about some questions? Hey, Tom.
Tim, how closely is your department going to be able to work with the court systems to give more transparency to what's happening in our county when you talk about the increase in crime levels? That is probably more due to the fact that the jail is full, people who get arrested for criminal activity go into jail, within a couple of hours they will OR and back out in the street, making the public susceptible to them. How many of these people, how many warrants are in, how fast are the unserved warrants increasing in this county versus 5 years ago before AB 109? And how close are you going to be able to work with the court systems to be able to get some adjudication to these cases or get them back into court so that they now understand that there is a penalty to pay. But right now, if they get arrested for a crime, they're OR'd, they're back on the street, they get arrested for failure to appear, which is incrementally. When they get arrested for the failure to appear, they're put right back out on the street because their jail doesn't have any room for them. So,
wow, that's a heavy question, Tom. I don't have the statistics on the number of open warrants. I don't know that. I do know that
just a second, nobody does because they won't divulge that information.
that type of information, and again, I'm going to have to defer that a little bit until I find out more about it. I can tell you that my viewpoint on that is that there should be total transparency between your sheriff's department and the public. Work very closely with the courts to ensure that things don't fall through the cracks.
That's what I want to hear.
I know Judge Harper is a wonderful judge. When these cases come in front of him, he is very good at adjudicating them appropriately. You're right. Somebody gets arrested, goes back to the jail, they turn them right back around because there's no room. Hopefully the new jail will increase the number of beds, combined with some of these treatment court programs and so on and so forth, to keep other people out of there, so there's room for those people to spend a night or two, at least until they can get arraigned, instead of just OR.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding training of officers. I don't know what it currently is. Is there an academy they attend? What sheriff's academy or law enforcement academy do they attend?
In California, it's you have to attend a post academy. It's standardized training for peace officers throughout California. It's the same curriculum. Whether, like, is that where you?
Well, yeah, I have advanced posters. What I'm curious about is, and I'll relate to the gun thing in Florida.
Okay.
There were several calls made, several people contacted. Nothing apparently was done. I reflect back to when I was working. When I was a young deputy, you got a substance or a household abuse,
Domestic
nobody did anything about it.
Yeah.
Until suddenly they came down hard on the deputies that didn't take care of business. When I left the department, if you got a spousal abuse, somebody better go to jail because they're watching over your shoulder. I believe that the officers from the FBI all the way down should be trained that when they get a call from a mother, a father, a neighbor, whatever it might be, about a youngster or an oldster that's got a problem with rifles or handguns, they shouldn't just hang the phone up and say, oh, got another nut. They ought to take care of it. And I think it's in-service training that's going to do that. I don't think you're going to get that in the academy.
They train the basics in the academy, no doubt about it. That's why when you go to an agency, you're put on field training opportunities. And that's one thing that I will look at is the field training operations that are going on in the Sheriff's Department here right now. I can refer back to a previous organization I worked with that was very, very specific on their field training operations. You had 10-day opportunities to learn something. You were evaluated every single day. You either learned it or you were dinged on it, and you get like 3 times where you can fail something, and then you're rejected during probation.
Do they currently, the desk operators, people, complaint deputies, are they trained additionally to, it's one thing to be a cop on the street and go out and arrest people. It's something else to analyze a call coming into the desk. I did that for 4.5 years, so I know what I'm speaking of.
I understand. I don't know what's specific going on right now. I don't have. Okay, thanks, Jay.
Check.
Jay Underwood. Yay!
I suspect that'd be something you would hopefully emphasize.
Absolutely. Training is one of the biggest things on my agenda. I'll share something with you. Okay, I am retired. I have a pension coming in from PERS. When you elect me as your sheriff, I'm going to opt out of PERS, meaning the county will not have to be paying my portion, or their portion rather, for my PERS retirement. And you know what that means. That's a lot of money. I'm going to negotiate with them, with the CAO and the board, to take that money it's already budgeted. I want to take that money and I want to put it specifically into a training fund for the Sheriff's Department, for the civilian personnel and the officers. Okay? You can do that. And we have people that need to be trained. We owe it to them. They're taking on these responsibilities. They ought to be doggone trained to do them effectively and do them by law.
I'll give you an example. You talked about sales tax. When I was with LA, we passed a quarter percent sales tax, strictly for law enforcement, lifeguards, and the district attorney's office. We passed it. All they did is the board of supervisors just took that amount of money out of our normal annual allotment. So yeah, with the sheriff's department and whoever, but we didn't gain anything. So there's got to be something written into these ordinances so the board of supervisors can't steal that money, because they will if you let them.
There are different types of taxes. There's a specific tax, which would, now that's okay. We're getting a little bit deeper than I want to, but the specific tax requires 66 1/3% of the vote to pass. But what it can do, if it's written properly, all the sales tax collected would go to the Sheriff's Department or to public safety, however it's written. You have the general tax, which you're speaking to, that only requires 50% plus 1. That then goes into the general fund, and it's up to the Board of Supervisors to decide how to spend it. You're absolutely right, but those are the differences, and I'm leaning, we need a specific tax that goes strictly to law enforcement, just like they did in Humboldt County. So, you're welcome. Thank you for the good question. Anybody in the cheap seats got a question?
Hey, I've got a shill question, if you'll pardon me. Have you given any thought to who might be your undersheriff, Lawrence?
Wow, what a great question. As a matter of fact, I do have somebody in mind, and he's here tonight.
Hey!
And I'd like to introduce Detective Sergeant Brian Ward. Brian has been a member of the Trinity County Sheriff's Department for 17 years. He's been the sergeant in charge of detectives, investigations for 4 years. And before that, he was a corporal in investigations, detectives for 6 years. So he has a lot of time with the department. He understands how it works. He's respected by most people in the department. Any supervisor would be, right? Prior to that, he also has worked. He's worked up in Oregon State Corrections up there for 3 years. So Brian has got a wealth of experience to bring to the administration, and I mean, when we talk, it's like we're on the same page. We both want the same things for Trinity County. We both want the same things for the Trinity County Sheriff's Department. That is to be the best Sheriff's Department in the North State, providing the best level of service to all of you, and also taking care of the inmates because they're people too. Thank you, Brian, for agreeing to come on the team.
Nope, here you go. Wait. No, you do. In back. We need to hear.
How do you feel about the militarization of peace officers?
Well, we don't have that in Trinity County, that's for sure. But I tell you, there are places in this country, urban areas, that the police officers are dealing with almost guerrilla warfare. They're being attacked, they're being targeted. How do you fight something like that? By having better weapons or better protection than what's coming at you. I think there's a time and a place to do that. But I also think that it depends on the people, it depends on the county, it depends on the administration. I don't foresee doing any type of work like that to militarize the Sheriff's Department, because I believe that it's a public service organization. Now, something could happen in the future that could totally change my mind, but at this point in time, I don't see that happening. In the big picture, I don't like the militarization of police in general. I don't think that's their job. I think that's why we have the military, to take care of those issues. Does that answer your question?
Switch with it.
That one's bad?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll try this one. John.
Sheriff issues CCW permits, has done so in Trinity County for many years. What's your stance?
I support the process of getting a CCW. Anybody that does not have a reason to not have a gun can come before me, and we will talk and we'll work it out. I'm a supporter of CCW. I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. We have a lot of issues and a lot of division going on in this country right now about guns. I really believe it's not the guns that are doing the problem here. It's the people that are getting them, the illegal people getting them. Not illegal people, but people getting them illegally. Maybe there are some illegal people, I don't know. But in Trinity County, right now, when we don't have an adequate number of patrol deputies, people need to be able to protect themselves until help can get there. I'm not saying take action and take out the bad guy, but if it's between you and the bad guy, you got to live with yourself, but I'll support you if you do it right. Answer that one? He's got another question.
One more quick one. Recently, the Sheriff's Office lost control of the Office of Emergency Services. Are you going to go try to reinstate that, or do you have a direction there?
That's a good question. The Office of Emergency Services, as an organization statewide, there are many counties that have it under Health and Human Services, or actually under a separate body itself, not under the Sheriff's Department, not under any type of law enforcement. And I've worked with those organizations in various parts of the state, and I got to tell you, when you're looking at the total picture of taking care of the population after an emergency situation, I really believe Health and Human Services has a better grip on it because they have access to more funding sources to give to the people, to help the people recover, than through the Sheriff's Department. However, that being said, I believe in working hand in hand with the new Director of Emergency Services, and he and I have also had several conversations. And we are on the same page as far as what needs to be done. I talk about how they have a grasp of getting more money than the Sheriff's Department could on its own, and those types of funds can benefit the Sheriff's Department and benefit the people, I think. But I think I don't have a problem with it going to Health and Human Services if that's what the bottom line of the question is. And actually, if they want to have all the infrastructure in place and I can just go to the table and say, hey, I need a check, I think it's better for the people. You got time for one more question? No. Here ever.
That's okay, I can yell.
The problem is we can't hear him back.
That's okay, they don't want to hear him at that.
Okay, back to the cannabis issue. Is this on?
Yep.
It's
Hold
on.
on, your mouth.
There's a high percentage of people who are not going to be legal, I guess, who aren't going to get licenses and do this. The numbers sort of stagger, and how are you going to deal with this sort of huge number of illegal operations?
That may be a situation that could be taken care of itself in the not too distant future as the price of cannabis continues to drop. But to answer your question directly, there aren't enough law enforcement around to handle every single one of the illegal grows. But my plan is to have an adequate number of code enforcement officers and continue to work closely with the Department of Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Forest Service and any other surrounding areas to help with combating the non-compliant cultivators. You can only get them one at a time, and my plan is you go after the biggest one first and you work your way down. So that's about all I can do on that. But there is, along those lines though, there are some monies available through Prop 64, that was the cannabis legalization. There's going to be a lot of money available to law enforcement to combat the issues relative to the cannabis. I intend on applying for as many of those grants as possible.
Do you believe,
Oh, wait a minute.
do you believe that federal government supersedes state laws?
Depends on which laws you're talking about, depends on which
You
part
know
of the
what I'm talking
Constitution.
about.
Which part?
The federal government says drugs are illegal, and our supervisors say that they're not going to make us a sanctuary, a non-sanctuary city, because they think that the state has passed the law that we can now grow all that we want to, and the federal government says we can't.
Senate Bill 54, signed by Governor Brown, the sanctuary state. Is that I'm taking that's
That's it.
okay. Unique set of situations there. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Constitution, 10th Amendment, right? It says that those rights not conferred upon the government fall to the state. For example, the immigration issue. Well, the federal government has a right to protect its borders. So, based upon that, the states cannot say, we're going to have an open border, because that's violating the federal government's rights under the 10th Amendment. As a sheriff, if you want to know how I'm going to deal with that, it's It's kind of an interesting situation because it's almost, for me, it's the best of both worlds. And here's why. Say we have somebody that's an immigrant, that their visa expired 20 years ago, and yet they're a part of the community. They've been working hard. They pay their taxes. They sent their kids to school. They're contributors to the community. Do I want ICE to come in and take them out? No, I don't. But, so, here's the other issue. We arrest somebody out in the forest, and they're undocumented, and they're bad guys. I don't want them in this county. I'm going to call ICE and say, if you want this guy, he's getting out at this date and time, you be here, or he's walking out the front door. I can't do any more than that. I will not hold somebody longer than is deemed necessary within the court orders. But getting back to it, I think California overstepped its bounds with regard to that particular legislation.
The reason I bring it up because in our area, people are buying homes that live in Los Angeles, and they're putting non-proper people into these places, and they're bringing in non-proper people in to work the fields or whatever they've got. Our area in the mountain, every time you see a wooden fence go up, somebody's growing, and they're not all growing little tiny bits. They're bringing people in. I am not safe in my area. I no longer can walk.
We can't go out our door without, I mean, my next door neighbor bought the property next door, and he lives in Walnut Creek and has $1 million mansion, but he won't grow his pot down there. He wants to grow it right next door to me and ruin our area. We've been sick for 30 years, and now we aren't.
That is something that, when it's reported to the Sheriff's Department, my feeling is that code enforcement should be immediately on that. It's an issue dealing with the cannabis, not so much the immigration issue. And I have to draw the line there. I
wasn't referring to immigration. I was referring to cannabis. The people that are using our neighborhoods to grow their pot and bringing all these unsavory people into our area. Cars go by with these people in them. I can't go for a walk anymore. I'm not safe. I've been here from 1990. And when we bought out where we did, they said, this is where we went in. They said, where can we build our house? Where can we own our land? They said, you're safe over here. But we're not safe anymore.
All I can tell you is I would hope that you give me the opportunity to address that when I'm in office. I couldn't do anything right now, but it's a code enforcement issue with regard to the cannabis. That's an illegal grow. A safety issue is something that a deputy would have to go out, address your concerns, and we move from there. But right now I can't tell you what I could do because I'm not in there.
I just have a question regarding cannabis growing.
Okay.
And these morons that have children, and they're growing. My voice is pretty loud.
I know, but we can't hear it back, so we really need it.
I'm concerned about the pot growers and the children that are on the property with them.
Yep.
It's not a farm.
Well, there's nothing in the ordinance that says children cannot be on that property. If there's a concern with how the children are being raised or exposed to it, then that's Child Protective Services that needs to be called on that particular issue. But as far as having a cultivation site and having children on that acreage, that's not a violation of the ordinances. So, sorry, that's about all I can give you on that one.
I have a question along the same lines. Your code enforcement officer becomes aware of a grow. He arrives at a location, a locked gate. I've been told they won't go through a locked gate. I'm not sure how the law reads, but would you encourage, if needed, a search warrant to go onto that property?
There's two avenues to go when we're looking at the illegal cultivation sites. One of them would be the civil aspect of it, where you go in there and you cite them for being outside the ordinance, and the other one would be criminal, where they're violating a specific law. Search warrants would be the way to go if you have a locked gate. So you want to do that so you ensure that no rights are being violated and you have a case that you can build and take it all the way through.
So you would encourage church ones?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Julie.
I'll talk louder. In regards to the cannabis, I definitely know it's definitely out of your hands. It comes to the ordinances and your board of supervisors, and I do realize it's out of your hands. I feel like it would be a lot more helpful for the sheriff to be more involved in the cannabis ordinances than he is now. I feel like it has a huge impact on what's going on. The ordinance that is passed as of right now, anybody can go grow on a property. I have seen it. I work for it. I data entry the licenses. They're all over the United States. Licensees from all over. The parcel's owned by somebody else. The person that signs off on it is an agent, and the person that pays for it is completely different than somebody else. I'm not saying that all cannabis licensees are like this, but I'm just saying that there's a good majority, 70% of them, that aren't from this county, and it would be really nice if it would just stay, if it was just the parcel owner, and that was somebody from Trinity County.
Thank you, thank you.
We've got some supporters here, Julie. But again, I've been going to the planning commission meetings. I see what goes on there, and the board of supervisors meetings. I've read the ordinances, and they're following along with the California regulations. I appreciate you saying it's kind of out of the sheriff's hands, but I also agree 100% with you that the sheriff needs to be involved working with the planning department and when these licenses are coming up and providing input, just input.
Input, yes, would be a lot more helpful. And
I agree with you.
Well, I just think supplying that input would help because you know the laws. And the laws in California are changing so quickly that we need someone that is up to speed on them to keep a balance for our community. I think that cannabis, non-cannabis, there has to be a balance, and only when you have good law enforcement that knows the laws that are changing quickly, we can get that balance. But we don't have that. And I want a well-balanced individual leading our group of sheriffs out there, deputies, because they don't know what to do.
That involves training again, that I'm very big on, and ensuring that everyone has the tools in their toolbox to go out there and work and enforce the laws. I lost my train of thought on that one.
I think the balances shift, and we have all of these people here that have good intentions for themselves, which is great, but they don't really think about the community that they're in. And then it disrupts everything from down to our children, and some of us have been here for so long, we don't have that way of life anymore. And many of us are starting to leave because we don't have faith in our leadership anymore to look out for the community as a whole. And right now, that's where my family is at. That's what I'm looking for. I want my sons to come back here. I want them to retire here. I want my grandchildren, my parents have a ranch house. I want us all to come back. But if we don't have a good leader on the law side to keep the balance, to help with the board of supervisors, to maybe guide them and show them that the laws are changing and their way of thinking may not be the right lawful way for the community, we need someone there to keep up to speed because our laws are changing so quickly. We have voters coming out, and 1 minute we have this, the next minute we have a proposition freeing molesting individuals out, putting them back in the community, which is okay, but I guess. But it's not anymore. It's a misdemeanor now, so.
Tiffany, you're right. And I was speaking to somebody earlier about this when Prop 47 and 57 were passed, and I really think that the people were misled, grossly misled on those two propositions that changed not only types of crimes and how they would be punished, whether felony, misdemeanor, infraction. I mean, I think it's unconscionable right now that if a juvenile goes on a high school campus with brownies laced with cannabis, it's an infraction. It's a ticket. And that's if there's a deputy available that can go out there. Another reason why I want to get a school resource officer dedicated to that. There's also a movement, and I'm sure some of you have seen it. It's the, in fact I have it here, Initiative for Public Safety. It's Keep California Safe. And there's going to be some petitions going around to get this on a ballot to force the legislature to reclassify some of the crimes that they declassified so that we don't have child molesters getting out of prison early. We don't have people convicted of raping an unconscious person getting out of prison early. Human trafficking getting out early. These are the types of things that should not be allowed to protect our society. And I'm definitely in favor of that to protect Trinity County and protect all of you. So I'm just mentioning it because you'll see some people going around with the petitions. I urge you, sign them. Let's get this thing on a ballot so we can start straightening out some things that are going bad. But I appreciate your comments there, and I think I'm the right leader to change something. This is an interesting election year. You're going to have 2 board of supervisors being elected, a district attorney. You've got 4 people that are probably going to run for sheriff. It's a big deal. This is going to be the most important election, I think, for a sheriff in probably 20 years. There are so many issues that are coming up right now. I've touched on a lot of them, but you need somebody, I feel, that has the experience, the knowledge, and the desire to attack these problems head on and not be satisfied with an answer of no. You go back and go, why not? So that's why I'm in it. Thank you, Tiffany. Oh, Everett again. Oh, Cindy. Oh, no, wait a minute. Give it to Everett.
Earlier on, you had mentioned about how passionate that you are about the Officers' Bill of Rights, the deputies, and how that their rights are that important. I'm wondering how that you would handle the complaints that the members of the public may have towards the deputies, and how those complaints are going to be handled. Are you going to be more siding with the officers? Is it going to feel that way? Or does the complainant actually feel like that they're going to have some resolution?
Great question, Cindy. My time with my other agency, I investigated citizens' complaints. I was a first-line supervisor. The complaints came to me from the public directly, and I investigated them, and then with input from the lieutenant and the captain, we determined whether or not there was any factual basis to the complaints. If so, we took the appropriate action against the employee. Or sometimes there's absolutely no truth to what the complainant's bringing in which case a good, thorough investigation will prove that, and then you exonerate the employee. Now, I can tell you that throughout my career, there were more than one individual that was unhappy with me finding that they did something wrong. And you know, you deal with that because you're a supervisor. I mean, how many people here are business owners that have had to take, or supervisors had to take action on an employee? Was it a fun time? No. Nobody likes to be told they didn't do it right, but it has to be done, and then you supplement that with additional training. You go, you did it wrong this time. Here's what you did wrong. What can we do to make sure that you don't do that again? But my impression, or my feeling on citizens' complaints, right down the middle, you have a wall. You collect all the evidence. Whatever side is stronger, is it propensity that this did happen or did not happen? And I'm used to actually calling back complainants and talking to them and telling them, we investigated this. Sorry, there was no basis to it. Or we investigated it. Thank you very much for bringing it to our attention. We're going to rectify the situation. But in the meantime, officers do need to feel that they will be backed by their administration. And I've always told everyone, I'll back you, but if you do it wrong, I'm not going to back you. But I'll make sure you get training from a special training fund.
Back to public safety. I attend a lot of the Board of Supervisors meetings, and something that's disturbed me rather lately is cannabis ordinances. They're including some specific paragraphs on people who have felony convictions. And on the face of it, it looks like they're saying people who have felony convictions cannot have a license. And then they go on to all of this except. And in particular, they excuse anyone who has a felony conviction related to cannabis. I think this is absolutely the wrong thing to do in these ordinances, and I'm curious what you think about this.
That's another one of those issues, Everett, that it's rather out of the sheriff's hands, because the sheriff doesn't write the laws, the sheriff doesn't write the ordinances, the sheriff enforces them. It's up to your elected officials, whether at the state level, the federal level, or the local level, to put those people into office that will take care of, well, okay, yeah, do the right thing. Those are state regulations that came down, and the county is following those, which I think it has to do. Because I've read the same ones you read. Certain felonies are acceptable. Yeah. So, really?
Crossing them off my list. City of Reading recently partnered with a church group and with a rancheria and others to help support their department. Have you looked at the possibility of large landowners, rancheria, anyone else that might be supportive of the department around here?
I have not done that yet, but it's a good point. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. One thing I forgot to do. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Some of these large organizations do have money that they're willing to donate to public safety. The Nazarene Church? No, Bethel Church. Bethel Church in Reading. A huge organization, and yeah, they actually paid for 2 officers or 3 officers as a direct donation to the budget. Yeah, I mean, if there were organizations in Trinity County that was willing to do that, then yeah, I'd definitely go for that.
How much shall we put you down for, John?
He's good for one deputy.
Even if that money came from a large cannabis grower?
Good question, Cindy. Guess that would be up to the Board of Supervisors, wouldn't it?
What about the 911 system working?
Ask about the 911 system.
911 system, you know, and actually I had a really good, there was a really good presentation at Board of Supervisors meeting a couple back, where Motorola Solutions presented their new comm system, CAD, computer-aided dispatch, radio system. It's going to be amazing. It really is. It's going to collect information that the sheriff can use to detail where crimes are occurring, when they're occurring, and better deploy personnel based upon that. The 911 system, it's in a state of flux right now because half of it kind of went over to OES and half of it kind of stayed over here with regard to the notifications, the reverse 911 goes. They're fixing it, they're on top of it, and they know what went wrong with it. And so that shouldn't be an issue in the future, let's hope. The 911 system is going to be improved, but it won't be until probably September. So it is coming on board and they are fixing it. It's a great system. I'm really excited about it personally. Okay, well, thank you very much for being here and listening to me and asking some really great questions. I hope that you will stick around a little bit. If I didn't answer something or you were embarrassed to raise your hand, you can come up and see me. And otherwise, go enjoy some of those wonderful cookies out there. Thank you very much for being here tonight.